with Salam Media. This is Salam Media coming to you live from South Africa.
At 9:20 a.m. we continue with news and views this morning, and we are now looking at vaccine and all the talk in South Africa and right across the entire world about vaccine rollouts. But there have been some major concerns that have been expressed with regards to vaccine, and it's not only about the debate on whether you want to take the vaccine or you don't want to take the vaccine. The key issue here is we are looking at a pharmaceutical industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry, and in terms of monopolizing the vaccine. And as we enter this next phase of the COVID-19 pandemic with the vaccine talk and the vaccine rollout that is taking place, South Africa, no different. We've heard about 1 million vaccines that are going to be purchased out of India. But again, there are question marks that are being raised, and looking at the government, looking at its decision to be the sole purchaser of the COVID-19 vaccine, and will this actually lead to the nationalisation of the vaccines? And we join on the line this morning by Connie Mulder, who is the head of Solidarity Research Institute. Connie, good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, wonderful having you. Now, I've seen an article where AfriForum and Solidarity has now been threatening legal action over COVID-19 vaccines. What are some of the issues? What is the background to this, Connie?
Yes, right. So I think we first need to sketch the context here. Is the only way for South Africa out of the COVID-19 pandemic and out of perpetual lockdown is to have a proper vaccination program and to get most of the population vaccinated so that we can go back to something that resembles normal. And that is why this is of critical importance that we quite frankly get this right. And that is where we're extremely bothered by a government that then steps in and says, we will be the sole buyers and distributors of this vaccine. That just does not make any sense. We're not saying government should not buy vaccines. Obviously, government should be one of the buyers of vaccines. We do not understand why Mkhize would, in one statement, basically tell the whole private sector that you are not able to buy vaccines. We're just of the opinion, any employer who wants to inoculate his employees, any medical aid who wants to inoculate their members, and any NGO who wants to inoculate the community they serve should be allowed to buy these vaccines from the manufacturer, rather than waiting for government to buy and distribute it. Now, this would have been a problem with any government, but this government in particular irks us somewhat more. Now, remember, this is the same government that cannot provide textbooks to children at school, that cannot keep the lights on, and that still funds in the middle of a pandemic. And now this government insisting that they will be the ones solely responsible is something that we just simply cannot allow. Regarding vaccination, our government, quite frankly, has been, even though they've taken up this role, has been asleep at the wheel. Brazil already has 200 million vaccines ordered, and they're administering it to their population. The US and the UK is way ahead, with the United Kingdom having ordered 340 million vaccines in August of last year. And we've begged for 1.5 million from India, who ordered more than 1 billion vaccines. And now we're trying to celebrate that, and we've got no plans to get vaccines in for the rest of the year. Even though we've got an ambitious rollout plan, there's no indication where we're going to get all of these vaccines, if we've actually procured them, if we're going to be able to. And that means if we trust government with this, we are looking at being into lockdown well into 2022, maybe even 2023, until enough people die for us to have reached herd immunity. And that's something that we just simply cannot allow. And that's why we're going to court to say, allow anybody who wants to contact manufacturers and to get vaccines in as quickly as possible. Every single person who gets vaccines in privately relieves the burden on the public health sector. Every company that inoculates their employees will obviously be helping create immunity. And that way we can make sure that anybody who wants to vaccinate gets vaccinated. We can get out of lockdown, because South Africa just simply cannot afford it anymore.
Connie, I hear what you're saying, and you're saying it's a question of trust, or it's a question of mistrust as far as the government is concerned. And the key question here is the government will have to find the money somewhere whether it is going to be the sole purchaser of vaccines or not. But they're going to have to find the money somewhere, and that money is going to come out of the public purse. But the key issue here is, does the government have the capacity to deal with the purchase of vaccines, and at the same time in terms of the rollout to the population at large?
I think that's exactly what we've spoken about. So government has said that the private sector can be involved, but that their primary role would be in subsidizing vaccines, so giving funds. Now, if you've watched 2020, the last thing you want to do is give this government funds to spend as they like, because we've seen what happens with that. You had PPE corruption, you've got a commission going, and we do not want to sit here in 9 months' time in lockdown with masks on, with another commission regarding vaccine procurement. So that is the part that's extremely worrying regarding finances, but even just capacity and competence. You're talking about a government that has added very limited public health capacity during 10 months of a pandemic where they put us in lockdown all the time. And now they're asking us to trust them to be able to do something as complex as this on their own. And we're quite frankly saying we don't think it's legitimate. We don't think they're going to be able to do this properly. And then that's the part that bothers us. If you've dropped the ball as government, that's one thing. But insisting that no one else pick up the ball is where we get angry. And that's why we're going to court to say, why not allow anyone, allow multiple players, allow people to get their healthcare from wherever they want, so that if you do not succeed in your plans, we're not stuck behind a monopoly on vaccines whilst waiting for you to become competent. And that is the position that we're taking, and that is why we're going to court to say that this is actually a veiled attempt by Minister Mkhize, who in August last year said, this pandemic is the ideal launching pad for the national health insurance. But we do not have a central buyer system, and we do not have national health insurance in South Africa. None of that regulation or laws exist, yet he's acting as if that is the system we have, and that's why he's pushing for the central buying. But that's something that we will obviously fight against as hard as we can, since if they can't keep the lights on, I'm not going to trust them with my healthcare.
Exactly. And I think this is a concern that has been expressed by many other quarters as well when it comes to government, its capacity and its ability to deal with a project of this nature. And as you correctly pointed out, there have been huge question marks in terms of the pandemic, how it has been managed in terms of even relief funding. And there is very little by way of accountability on the part of the government. And looking at this proposed court action that you are embarking on, what are some of the arguments going to be?
Unfortunately, I can't go into too much detail since the court documents haven't been finalized yet, and the advocates get very angry when I run ahead of them. But it does come. I'm consulting with them now at like 9:30, so I need to get my laptop set up. But it's basically coming down to we don't think the minister has the authority to do this. There's no piece of legislation that allows him to block private buyers from buying vaccines, and that is where we're trying to figure out based on what authorization has he made this sweeping statement that says government will be the sole buyer and distributor when it's not actually in place with any other medicine in the country at the moment. You've got a massive private sector cold chain logistic chains that is able to transport medicine in the correct circumstances, the correct conditions, where much of this medicine has to be transported with specific care taken due to temperature. All of this already exists, and all of these companies already buy medicine privately. Why now suddenly have you decided to superimpose yourself on top? And if you're now going to say you want to use their capacity, why not let them do it? That's the part that we do not understand. Why in the middle of a pandemic do you not want all hands on deck? Why don't you want everybody who wants to get a vaccine into the country to get it into the country as quickly as possible?
Well, Connie, we're going to have to wait and see what happens, when you prepare your court papers, when you lodge your court papers as well. And I'm sure we will get a lot more clarity as far as this proposed action goes. But for now, thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Thank you, and enjoy your day.
Connie Mulder joining us this morning. AfriForum Solidarity threatening legal action over COVID-19 vaccines, and some of the key points that are being made that throughout the lockdown period, the government has proven that when it has the monopoly with regard to COVID-19, when it comes to policies, when it comes to tasks. There are issues that spring about, and we know about the corruption, we know about the inefficiency, and these are potential dangers that await us in terms of potential abuse of the government in terms of its power, and when it comes to buying and distribution of the vaccines. And this is what Solidarity is saying, this is what Connie Mulder is saying, that South Africa cannot be trusted, and particularly when we're talking about the nationalisation of vaccines, and where the government has a history of failure, and South Africans cannot afford another failure during this crisis. The time is just gone 9:30 a.m. We come back, we'll be joined by Ibrahim Tembisa Fakudi, and looking at Qatar and its neighbors. And the question that is being asked is, can Qatar and its neighbors recover from the blockade?
Breaking